Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mary Gatehouse. One of the things I was just reflecting, one of the great things about panels like this is that you learn so much about your colleagues that you don't otherwise know. So really interesting to hear, Sarah, a bit about your background and how you came to Ciena. So a little bit about myself. I'm part of the legal team at Ciena. So we have a legal team of around 80 lawyers and contracts professionals. And like Sarah, I have the same kind of remit in terms of geographical responsibility. So we're both part of what's called the international leadership team. So I lead a team, again, like Sarah, very diverse, crossing Europe, Middle East, Africa, Europe, Middle East, India, over to Singapore, down into Australia. So I have some 3 people who are down in Australia. So very, very broad, lots of different languages, cultures, and really a really fantastic team. So just in terms of, Fabiola, if we click, I'll just talk a little bit about my background and how I got here. I was born in North Wales, a place called Llanfair, and I challenge anybody on the call by the end of the call to come up with a meaning for that place name. It's not the longest in the world, but I think it's very close to that. So brought up in a little village in North Wales, and Welsh speaking. I spent a bit of time, quite a lot of time actually, during my childhood in East Africa. So my father is a scientist, an entomologist, so studying insects, and he was at the time doing a lot of research on a particular insect that was eating all the crops in East Africa. So my sister, my mum, and myself joined him for some quite long stints in Kenya. So I went to school in a little village outside of Nairobi called Maguga. I learned some Swahili. So I think this is probably the point at which, as I think I first went when I was 6 years old, kind of opened my eyes to, something so different people, different language, different way of living, different food, different smells, just really fantastic opportunity. And that's where I think I got my passion for people and cultures and languages in particular. So just coming back to kind of that upbringing back in Wales, there's a picture there of my sister and myself. A lot of music in Wales. We like to sing a lot. There's a lot of music in the household and at school and more broadly in the community. Food central to everything. Sport. We love our rugby in Wales, and I continue to this day to love sport. I'll come back to the Morocco piece because that came a little bit later, but if we just click, Fabiola, I'll talk a little bit about where I kind of went from there in further education. So love of languages, I took that into, so I studied French and German for A-level, and then I wanted to continue the language focus, but with something a little bit more exotic. I had a fascination for the Middle East from a fairly early age, kind of the art, the architecture, just there's something very exotic and attractive about it. So hence the Arabic. And really I was very focused on, not necessarily, I wanted to learn the language, but also to spend time in the Middle East. So the year abroad, which was my 3rd year at university, that was split between 6 months in Syria and 6 months in Egypt. And then we did a lot of traveling in between. So again, a fantastic opportunity to kind of see the world, and at that age kind of being very open to everything. We learned an awful lot. We saw so much sort of hospitality, some wonderful people, wonderful places, and came back and realized that actually the whole point of doing that course was to spend the time away, and that last year was and doing exams was rather tough, but got through that. And then that's where the Morocco piece came in, because I then had an opportunity to, and it was sort of a one-off. There was a scholarship for Welsh people from Wales with an interest or some Arabic. And as my friends and fellow students at the time said, there was only one person. There was a category, it was made for me. So I spent a year in Morocco working for a number of different charities across the country, from Tetuan in the north down to Taradant in the south. So again, kind of, seeing different ways of living, different perspectives, and a great opportunity at that age. Coming back to the UK, I then didn't really know what to do with myself, and somebody suggested, I'd never thought about it before, but somebody suggested that if I were to combine law and languages, that could be an interesting career. So I looked into it and went for some interviews with some of the sort of global law firms based in London, got a training contract, and a firm called Ashurst paid for me to do a law conversion, so basically a law degree in 1 year. And then I worked really for them I did a training contract with them and worked for them for about 7 years in both London and then 2 years in Madrid. So I was able to combine that kind of passion of languages with the legal career, which was kind of what I'd hoped for. But again, not with, as Sarah said, not a direct pathway. And certainly at this point, I'm not in tech at all. But from there, I then was looking at roles that were actually what we call in-house in the legal profession, which means that you're part of a business rather than being in private practice, which is what I had done until that point, where you have different clients. So it always appealed to me to be part of a company and to be sort of embedded in a business, understanding the strategy, really getting to know your team. And that's what the next role that I took was, an in-house role with a Spanish company, but a global business in infrastructure. And the first focus was on a global airport business. Fantastically interesting. I loved that. But then we moved that actually went on to sell that business. And then I moved into telecoms, which was another division of that company. And that's where I started to get a bit of insight into telecoms and tech. And then fast forward a few years, and that's when I joined. So I've been at Ciena 5 years now, so joined Ciena in 2019. So I had an inkling of, I was working with sort of telecom towers, so what we would call the telecom infrastructure. And then a lot of the same customers that I had with Abertis are now customers of Ciena. So there was a sort of continuity there. It was already an adjacent market, we would call it. If I think about kind of my passions, you get the sense it's, all about people, all about connection. Sarah talked about connection, and that's where the technology piece comes in. And one of the things I love about what we do, as Sarah says, is that we are, it's all about innovation and connecting people, which is, fundamental to everything we all do today. The other piece is the languages and just continuous learning. That's something that I'm passionate about, continuing to learn and develop. I think it's never too late to continue to learn, even at my ripe old age. I see law as it was really a means to develop these passions I had, and also it gave me the road into tech, into both Abertis and Ciena, and to do what we do today. And I love what I do as well, like Sarah. I think probably you'll hear that a lot. And we all do very different things. And for me, it is all about the people. It's all about the connections we are making. From the work we do day in, day out, it's very different. Every day is different. It's about understanding different perspectives when we're negotiating contracts, when we're looking at different risks of different customers and some of the different stakeholders in our business. It is all about understanding people. And the other element that now more and more is becoming relevant to my role and our role in legal is geopolitics. So super relevant to all of our lives, and particularly to our business and the business that we are focused on and we are continuing to grow. When we look at what's happening in the US at the moment, in China, across the board, it's it's fascinating and highly relevant to our business. And then, as I said, continued learning. In terms of advice, I would say be open to new things. As you can see from what both Sarah and myself have talked about, we didn't necessarily see a straight line, but we were open to opportunities. We said yes. I think if you're in doubt, I would encourage you to say yes. You never know where that's going to take you, and it will always be interesting. And always ask questions and listen. I think people less and less nowadays, we're very used to talking, not necessarily to receiving. I always try and challenge myself to listen well and keep learning. Thanks, Fabiola.